And good afternoon, everyone. All right, I'm Kerbal. I'm going to do my best to guide you through this initial start of Kerbal Space Program. We're recording this. We tried to record this a couple times, but had some technical issues with it. Frame rate drops. I had to update a graphics card on my computer, so hopefully we're running. Right now, it says we're running 45, 51 frames per second. We're running good on our computer, so hopefully it'll go well. Hopefully the quality is up there. We are recording with XSplit Broadcaster. You'll see the watermark on the video feed as well. But let's get into the game. If you're just starting the Kerbal Space Program, this is going to be a sort of tutorial-ish on just kind of the first ways of how to get from Kerbal, your home planet, to, I think we're going to try at least get to the Mun on the first couple rounds here. We're going to play this in campaign mode, just because it gives us a little bit of story, a little backdrop. If you're just starting out, I highly advise you not to start off in sandbox mode. Yes, it gives you all the ship parts, all the things like that. If you have the DLC like I do, you end up having all those parts as well, and that can get really overwhelming very quickly in sandbox mode. Science mode, not so much. You don't have to worry about the funds as much, but you also don't have set missions to say, hey, you want to go here or you want to go there. The career mode kind of gives you a little bit of a path to follow just to start off. So we're going to just title this Kerbal Career. I will just leave it as Kerbal there. And we're actually going to change our flag. So stock game has a whole bunch of flags that you can pick from. But one of the things you can do is if you're playing on PC, which I am, you can actually add in your own flag. So you have the NASA flag here, a couple other ones for Squad, the developer, other flags for Ionic and Jeb's Junkyard, Kerbalnauts. But we're going to add in our own flag. We already put it into the game system. There's other sources you can find online of how to put that into the game yourself if you design your own flag and really want to have one. But we're just going to start off with that. We'll leave the options on normal. We don't have to go crazy. This is meant to be a tutorial, so I want to keep it as real as what you guys are actually going to have. I'm also going to play this stock. I don't have any mods running. I don't even have environmental enhancement mods, anything that makes it look prettier. This is exactly what you guys get out of the box, so to speak, as you're starting off. So we're just going to dive into the game here. We'll get this started up, and should be going good here. Alright, so we're here in Kerbal Space Program. We're getting welcomed by Gene Kerman. He's our flight director, and he's going to give you the quick guide. He's telling us some quick things about what we can do with our controls. Left and right kind of shifts us back and forth a little bit. We can right-click and hold down and rotate around the screen. Left-click when we want to go to a building. But all very simple stuff. We're just going to tell them we're good to go. And that's our quick little intro from Gene. So this is Kerbal Space Program. It's this little space complex here. We have no roads, no buildings. These Kerbals are quite advanced for their race. They don't seem to have any other infrastructure other than the space program, which is fun. But we have a simple vehicle assembly building here. We have our launch pad, little crawler way out to it, tracking station to keep track of where everything is up in space. Our research and development, so we're trying to make sure that we have our science going on there. Our astronauts, where they're going to be housed. The admin building, which odds are you're not going to really need that building a whole lot. You can certainly go through the entire game without actually ever using it. We also have our spaceplane hangar where we can build aircraft and later SSTO missions, single stage orbit ships, and our mission control and runway. Mission control is going to be the first place you want to go in Kerbal Space Program. Just a couple other things layout wise on the screen here. You also have all these buildings on the side. You can kind of mouse over them or scroll over them so that you can actually see what each building is, what it's designed to do, etc., in case you forget. Once you get a handle on it, you'll know where to go for each thing. We also have the year, day, and time up here. That's all set. We can actually change the speed of time and actually warp to the next morning, should we desire to. This is our Kerbal bucks up here. We start the game with 25,000 Kerbal bucks. We have pretty much a zero influence right now. We're neither good nor bad. That kind of comes into play a little bit more if you're going to work at the administration building, if you're going to try and trade some of your prestige for money or for science, or kind of leverage your influence that way. You don't really have to worry about a whole lot. As long as you're doing missions and completing them, you're going to have no problem getting a good prestige and keeping it up there. This is also where your science is, indicated by our little atom insignia here. Right now we have 0 science, so obviously we can't do anything in our research and development station. So the very first place we're actually going to go is going to be mission control. And you're going to get these missions pop up. These will be the same missions for everyone that starts the game. You're going to have these first 4 ones. You can only take 2 right out the gate. That would be to gather science data from Kerbal, launch first vessel, escape the atmosphere, and orbit Kerbal. Now clearly, we're not going to escape the atmosphere and orbit Kerbal before we launch our first vessel, and we kind of need to gather some more science data before we can even get out of the atmosphere. So the first 2 logical ones are going to be these 2. You can read through them. They're going to give you some money down here, a little tiny smidge of science, and some prestige just for completing it. And they'll give you a little bit of information, a little backstory into it if you really want. That's all up here. So we're going to take these 2 missions right here. We're going to click accept the contract. And there we go. And we're maxed out. So thank you, Gene. Let's get out of here. And let's get ourselves to the next place where you're going to spend most of your time in Kerbal Space Program. And that's in the Vehicle Assembly Building, or VAB. There we go. We are being welcomed by Werner von Kerman. He's the Kerbal analogy to Werner von Braun, who was, of course, a scientist working with NASA program, and originally with the V2 Nazi Germany rocket program. But he's the Kerbal analogy here to that real lifetime hero for space exploration. So he's just welcoming us here, again telling us how to kind of look around. Well, we'll just say we got him. So, as I said, if you're playing this first off the bat in like sandbox mode, this will be full of other parts and pieces. As you kind of click through the side here, we're on our command pods, fuel tanks, engines. There's not really a whole lot here right now. What we're looking at is that just starting off, you need the basic things to be down first. So we're playing with the Making History expansion just attached. It is stock. It's just DLC that's added to the game. So I consider that to be stock enough. But if you don't have that expansion, you're just going to have this Mark I command pod. You won't have the Onion, which is the Soviet analogy to Kerbal Space Program. But we're going to start off with our command pod. And it's right there. Nice, beautiful. You can actually hold shift and scroll in to zoom in on things. You can see our beautiful flag flying in the background, and right here on our ship as well. So this right here, if we just took this to launch pad and set it there, we would actually complete the first mission. But we want to try and speed things up a little bit for ourselves. We don't want to just go to the launch pad and we complete basically the first two missions for 600 and then get it back for nothing. We want to do a little bit more work here. So what we want to do is we're going to add some science. And what we're going to do, we're going to add this to the side here. Now I click on it over here and left click, and I just left click again to put it onto the ship. Now that's fine. That's a mystery goo containment. That's one of our science experiments, our first science experiments we can do. But it's kind of a little lopsided, right? So there's ways to get around that sort of stuff in Kerbal Space Program. You can see down here our current money that we have. We gained a little bit for accepting those 2 contracts, and this is how much this particular ship is going to cost as it is right now. You'll see that number kind of creeping up as we add more things to the ship. But right now, with this being lopsided, that kind of doesn't help us much. Certainly in space flight, you want to keep things nice and neat, center line, kind of symmetrical on both sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this off, and we're going to hit X on our keyboard. You also could do this right down here. This is our symmetry count. So this is going to take this and then double it or triple it 4 times, 6 times, all the way up to 8 is what you can go to. You can also hit Shift and X, and that'll decrease the number instead of having to cycle all the way back through. Just quick little things like that. Now, we are going to add 3 to this for a particular reason. One that, it just evens it out. We could just do 2, it's fine. It's kind of cover our flag, but not a big deal. We're doing 3 for a specific reason. One, we want to get some science at the launch pad. Another one, we want to get it while we're in the air above the launch pad. And then we want 1 more when we actually land in a different area. Different biomes is what they're called. So we're going to do that for those 3. Now, we have other options too on our engines. Well, right now for engines, we only have our flea booster. And that can kind of just snap right on the bottom of that. Now, you would think this is a pretty decent ship. Aha. Well, there's a problem with it, isn't there? How do we land? We need to add parachutes. Those are down here under our utility tab. So, we have a Mark 16 parachute, which we're just going to attach right to the top of that. And that's really all we need to do. That's enough for your ship. The one thing you want to do is keep in mind down here in the corner is our staging. The staging problem that you're going to have right now is right now our parachute and our booster are going to go off at the same time. And with how fast this thing is going to go with just this booster and this really light ship, we're going to end up actually ripping that parachute off before it can actually do anything for us in landing. So we have to do a little modification. We have to add a stage. You do that just by clicking these plus arrow icons that come down here. We are playing in version 1.6, I think 1.61 or 1.62, just so you know where we're at. It's indicated by the blue Delta V readout that's down here in the corner. That didn't used to be there. It used to be you had to have mods like MechJeb or there's another one that most people actually use instead. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I'm sure you'll say it in the comments and it'll be fine for everybody else. I'll probably remember it later. Kerbal Engineer Redux, that's what it is. So that one's also a good one for a lot of readouts you'll have in flight. But again, we're playing this straight up stock. We're not going to do any of those mods with it. Good. It wouldn't change how the game operates for any stock players, but it's just we're going to play this as you guys are playing it. So there's one other thing that we could do. We could actually take the booster and we can actually make 3 of those on the sides of this. Now this would make this very, very powerful ship. It would give us 1200 Delta V. We're really going to move with this sucker. We have 0 control, really, with it. And honestly, I don't know if I really want to do that. We're adding a lot of weight to it. We're making it a little bottom-heavy sort of thing. It's not going to really add a whole lot to what we're trying to do, so we're just going to take those off. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. So when you're removing a part, you just click on it and then drag it over to the gray box over here and then left click again. And that's how you kind of get rid of things. We'll go into the rest of these other icons over here. Your reroute kit, your rotate kit, move kit. and the place tool you have. These are just different ways of manipulating things here in Kerbal Space Program. If I want to, for example, take this part and I want to slide it up like that, I can actually make things kind of go in between. I can actually take it and rotate it for if I want it for whatever reason, or I can make this the main part of my ship so that it's whenever I detach things or I want to move things around, I just click on that one part as opposed to clicking on the main capsule portion. But we're just going to take this and make it not have a huge gap there. Let's see. Don't know why I was having issues there, not clicking back to it. There we go. Alright. Back to our place kit. So, this right here should be more than enough for your first level ship. And you can also title your ship up here. We're going to actually call this Prometheus 1. I like Prometheus. It's a primordial titan out of Greek mythology. It's gate fire to humans, the wrath of the gods. So we are giving fire to Kerbals. Probably not the best idea in the world. So we'll go with Prometheus 1. And we're just titling that as our first ship. Additionally, if you don't like your flag or whatever, you can always change it up here before you start a mission. And that's really it. We don't have anything else over here to really add. We could add some fins, and actually, why not? Just because we want to give ourselves a little stability. So we'll add 3 grid fins here. It's not really going to do a whole lot. These aren't controllable. Or they don't give us really much control whatsoever. Just a little bit of lifting surface. And that's really it for our first craft. So why don't we actually get ourselves going here. We'll save the craft, so that way we have it when we come back. And we'll just launch our first vessel. It'll be perfectly fine. What's the worst that could happen, right? Alright. There we go. There we are on the launch pad. You can scroll around, see the rest of Kerbal Space Center. So this right now, this is what we're going to do. We haven't completed our first missions just yet, but they are over here. If you want to look at them, this is your first mission. So launching your first vessel and gathering science data from Kerbal. From here, you can also see how much fuel you actually have. If there's any messages for completed missions or anything like that. We also can take a read of what our actual science is right now, how much money we have, and what our prestige is. This is also a little extra thing for Delta V readouts. You can start playing with some of these. It'll show your Delta V, your specific impulse, how much thrust ratio, start end mass. A lot of different things that you'll... I'm realizing you guys can't really see what I'm scrolling over. Apologies about that. There we go, that's better. Yeah, Delta V readouts, and also you have here the KSpedia, which is a encyclopedia of anything Kerbal Space Program, travel, where you want to go, how you do things. Just gives you a good little baseline as to where you go. So if you're confused at all with anything, this has some simple things, mechanics on how to do what you want to do in Kerbal Space Program. So actually a really good thing to kind of thumb through. You certainly can thumb through it ad nauseum. Most of us have learned by trial and error. Most of us have also learned by crashing and killing many, many Kerbals. I'm going to do my best to keep our intrepid pilot alive, which is down here in the corner here, Mr. Jebediah Kerman. We don't really trust Jeb with flying a whole lot of spacecraft. He tends to get a little happy with his craft and make it flip out and do all sorts of shenanigans on us. But just going over some quick controls before we end up actually launching our craft. We're going to show you a few things. So Z is all the way up for our throttle. X is to cut all the throttle. Shift Tapping the shift is going to slowly, incrementally raise your throttle. Control will actually lower it. So these are just some quick keys for PC. If you're playing this on a console game, I can't help you with what some quick keys are or what your actual controls are. I only know it from the PC side of things. T is your SAS module. So you can toggle SAS, it's your stability assist. That'll only happen if you have a pilot there or a command probe that allows you to do SES. R is for RCS thrusters. We don't have any on this ship, but if you wanted to enable them and turn them on, they use the monopropellant that we have. This gimbal right here, this nav ball that we have, where it's basically pointing in the direction of our ship. So this is pointing directly up, 90 degrees to the, is basically, we're looking at the ship from this perspective. So 90 degrees is over this direction here, 270 is over here, north is actually up here, and south is down here. So it's a little spun around from what we're looking at, but that's kind of the direction of everything in Kerbal Space Program. And obviously over here we have our staging, docking mode, staging mode. We kind of can get to all that sort of stuff later when we need to do more docking or anything like that. But this is just your how much roll, yaw, pitch you're all doing with your WASD controls. I'm not going to fiddle with them right now. I'll just show you that all going. But the way you control that ship is W is pushing up on the nav ball, S is pushing down on the nav ball, D is pushing to the right, A is pushing to the left, and Q and E is what actually spins it clockwise and counterclockwise. So Q is counterclockwise around the nav ball, E is clockwise around the nav ball. And that's just kind of your basics of that. A few other icons we have up in the corner here, full crew control, so we have a crew there, he's in command of the ship. If we didn't have a crew there, would have probe control or something like that if we had a probe. And if we have no contact with it, it'll say no probe control there. We have good signal strength from the KSC, we should, it's right there. But there's a couple little stations all around the planet that'll keep us in contact with, even though we don't have an antenna on. We don't have an antenna, so we can't transmit any science, and we have the direct connection to the Space Center right now. Last few things on here. If you scroll over this will be recover vessel, Space Center. We can go back to the Space Center if we don't want to. Just leave the ship on the pad. This also tells us our altitude. This is relative to sea level. So as you see, we're actually on the surface of the planet, but we're not at 0. We're at 69 meters. That's where this command pod is in relation to sea level. Keep that in mind as you're coming in and landing. Sometimes you forget that, oh, I've got plenty of time. I'm at like 5,000 feet. Well, it's really, 4,800 is when the actual surface is. It's talking about sea level, where you're at to the surface. So just keep that in mind as you're trying to make your re-entry approaches and whatnot. Atmosphere is listed here as well. You can see this kind of light blue going to a little darker blue, even darker, and then nothing. That's just the thickness of the atmosphere for whatever planet you're on, and what area of the atmosphere you're through. The way it works is that you want to kind of get through this thickest part of the atmosphere first, and then start tilting over on your side, and start going into a nice little arc, basically till you actually start falling off the planet. Last few things here, we can toggle our lights, so we can turn lights on, turn lights off. That's also, quick key is U on your keyboard for that. Your gear action group is G, or you can click it up here. And the brake action group is B. You can click B to just hit the brakes lightly. It kind of flashes and goes on and off like that. Or if you want to keep the brakes on, if you have a wheeled vehicle, you click toggle action brake group there, and they stay on. And that's really it for your flight screen that you're looking at right now. As you get going here, we'll do some more things, but initially I want to do some science. That's the main thing I want to do right now. We'll get that first mission done. So let's scroll in. We're actually going to right click on our crew our command pod, and we're actually going to do a crew report. It's going to be the first thing we're probably going to do here. So we have a crew report of 1.5 science. We're actually going to take that right there, and that's one done. And from here, we're also going to do a mystery goo as well. And that'll get us 3. Now, because we're on the surface, we can still EVA. We'll get Jebediah out of his ship. He's going to do himself an EVA report. Once you get further along in the game, you will be able to upgrade it so that your Kerbal can get out of the ship. Preferably not in flight in an atmosphere, but you can get him out and you can get him taking an EVA report in space. It just, while you don't have the science or the things researched yet or your building's upgraded, you can't do it while he's in flight anywhere or on any other body other than Kerbal, your main planet. The other thing we're going to do is we're also going to take this mystery goo and we're actually going to collect the data out of this. We're doing this for a reason. One, should there be anything horribly catastrophically done to this ship, we collect the data, we still have it, and it won't be lost if these happen to burn up for any reason. They won't on this one, but I'm just showing you for sake of it. Now, there is a little trick right here for Kerbal Space Program. So right now we have a crew report that's in this command pod. What we want to do is we actually want to take it out of the command pod and then put it back in the command pod. And we're doing this for a very specific reason. If we right-click on the command pod, it'll say store experiments, take experiments. Take the data out of there, and then we're just going to board the command pod. Now, what this has done, the way it's been explained from other YouTubers and other players from Kerbal Space Program, it's kind of like taking the crew report off the clipboard and putting it under the seat, so that now we can do another crew report on the clipboard. It's a silly thing that the crew reports don't just automatically go into the storage space on the command pod, but it's just something that hasn't been fixed or dealt with or whatever for whatever reason from developers, and that's just the one thing with that. So right now we have our first milestone. We've done an EVA test at home, so as we do things for the first time, they'll actually pop up here in the side corner for our milestones. You can just hit delete for them. They don't need to stay there. That way that kind of stays clear. You don't have 50,000 messages as you keep playing along. So we have a crew report, we have a EVA report, we have a mystery goo, all while we are here at the launch pad. So we are going to put our SES back on because it turns off since Jebediah left the controls. And we're going to queue ourselves up for a few things. We're going to right-click on another mystery goo. We're actually going to take that and hit this pin button so it stays there. Even if I keep right-clicking around or doing other things over here, it's going to stay up there. We're also going to do the same for our command pod. For the reason that we want to do another crew report mid-flight. That way we can do one while we're flying over whatever area we are. Over the launch pad, over Kerbal Space Center, over the shores, whatever. And that should be good. So now those are both there. We should be able to do our observe mystery goo and do another crew report. Let's start launching. Let's get Jebediah. He's been sitting there long enough at this point. Let's get him flying. So to light the candle, so to speak, is hit your space bar. We'll do a quick little countdown. 3, 2, 1, launch. And there he goes. Now we're just going to try and pitch ourselves over a little bit. We're already like halfway through that fuel. And there she is. So we're going to observe the mystery goo. Where are we observing it? While flying at Kerbal. 7 signs right there. Great. Do a crew report at the same time. Flying at Kerbal shores. And there we go. So now the only thing we have to do is wait for Jebediah to basically finish ascending. He's still going up at this point. Get rid of both of these now. So we're just waiting for Jeb to finish going up in the air. And he should, looks like, from the way we're going here, he should actually land in the water, which is great. We actually did one over Kerbal Shores for our crew report while flying above Kerbal Shores. So we'll be able to get that, but we're also going to get another crew report once we land in the water here, as well as another mystery goo and an EVA report. We'll get a lot of science out of this first launch. We actually did a pretty good job going up in the atmosphere. I don't know where our apoapsis is going to be. We can actually hit M and go to the map, and this kind of gives us a quick little look of our home planet Kerbal. And you can see real quickly, we have this little arc here, and this is kind of our shape. So we have actually hit our apoapsis, I believe. We should be heading on our way back down at this point. So this AP apoapsis is the highest point of your arc. Basically what you want to do is get this above the atmosphere and then start pushing it so that you end up creating a circle on the other side. Because this is still a circle. It's just hitting the planet before it becomes a circle. So let's just get ourselves down that. We're going to have alright. We are going to hit spacebar so we actually launch our parachute. It's going to be fine. The thing with the parachute right now is it's set for 1,000 feet right now. It always scares me. Always does. I don't know why. I've seen it work 1,000 times. It's not going to fail on us. But right now it's just in that pre-open stage. If we were going way too fast, I think it's above like 350 or whatever for these sorts of shoots. 350 meters per second. It would actually rip the chute off. It would be too fast, and we'd actually end up losing the chute at that point. So there are points, like right now it's yellow. It says it's like not quite safe for full deployment, but it'll deploy when it's fully safe for it. Well, we may be coming down right at Kerbal Shores, actually. We didn't quite go over far enough. But that's fine. Like I said, we did one recruit while we're flying over Kerbal Shores. We'll probably do another one at Kerbal Shores itself. Here we go, coming in. Slow down. Said it always gets me nervous. There it is. Man. Always gets me nervous. So yeah, we're going to end up landing at Kerbal Shores. Even though we're landing in the water, this is still technically Kerbal Shores area. Once we get actually out over here, it starts becoming Kerbal's water, which is fine. We're going to probably land in the water I don't know how many times. Alternatively, we could have gone the other direction and actually landed over towards the grasslands or other parts of the KSC. It would have been perfectly fine to land anywhere else there as well. So we're only floating down another 100 meters or so. We can actually do the thing called physics warp at this point, since we're in the atmosphere, which is your comma and period key. Comma to slow it down, period to speed it up. You can go ×4 physics warp. The thing to keep in mind with that is that it's not a time warp where you're just speeding up the time of things. You're actually affecting the physics of the game. So if things are hot, they're going to keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter. If you have huge aerodynamic forces, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Alright, so anyway, we've landed safely, thankfully. So right now, we have 2 mystery goos spent. We're actually going to rotate ourselves a little bit so someone can get up out of there. So Jebediah, you are going to go on EVA. You're going to take that crew report, do an EVA, report yourself, and go back in. So he's done his EVA report. He took the crew report off. We can do another crew report right here from Kerbal Shores. That'll get us 2 more signs. And we'll do 1 more mystery gear right here as well. And that'll give us 4. So that is it right there. And we've actually done some more milestones, some more contract parameters. We've launched our vessel, and once we actually recover our vessel, we should get the achievement for the mission done to receive science, or take science from her. And that's how you do your first 2 missions. Like, plain and simple, as best as you can, getting the most out of it science-wise. You're going to get 43 science, roughly speaking. You may get a little more, a little less if you forget to do something, or if you add another mystery goo and you can figure out how to get a little more out of it. You probably could have added 4 and ended up getting 1 in mid-flight over, the launch pad or something like that. But anyway, we got this much back from our funds. We landed over here on the shoreline, so we actually got 97.9% of our ship back. Remember, the farther you land away from the launch pad here or the runway, you actually get less of it back. Think of it as it takes money to send the ship or a truck or whatever over to wherever the craft is on the planet, and then haul it all back there. So it's kind of like you lost funds for being so far away to bring that all back to here. You had to pay somebody to go it. So that's kind of what's offsetting that. But in any event, by doing our missions and getting the funds back, we now have 135. Remember, we started with 25, so it's a huge amount of stuff for that, for money back. And Jeb got a little bit of experience. As he gets better and better as a pilot, he'll be able to do more things than just hold us on a straight line. He'll be able to hold different directions and hold towards targets. All good things for him to start learning. All right. Like I said, down here we had some world first milestones, and when our contracts are done. So you can scroll through these if you want. Not a big deal. It's just telling you that, hey, you've done this or done that, and here's some money, or here's some science, or all stuff like that. So you can just delete that. Same with your contract parameters. You don't need to go into too much. Just get them off there so they're not sitting over here, idly speaking. All right, so that's the Prometheus launch. We don't really need to launch another Prometheus. It's kind of a one-time deal. What we want to do is go into here, into our research and development stage. So this is our science tree. Excuse me. Yeah, so this is our science tree. Now, obviously, as the more science you get, the more things you can unlock, all the way out to stuff like advanced rocketry, probes, really big engines, massive engines. Anywho, what we're going to do is start off. We got basic rocketry and our engineering 101. This gives us just a few more parts to work with. Some decouplers, some more science, our first antennas, stuff like that. Now we're down to 33 science from getting those 2 things. We have this next bit of general rocketry, which gets us a little bit better engine, some larger boosters. We can do this, which gives us some radial decouplers, which would help. And we also could do this here, which gives us some heat shields, some more science, some other radial parachute, stuff like that. What we're probably going to do, we only have 33 more. We're probably going to forgo getting the larger booster and fuel tank and this other engine here. Probably going to forgo getting this. And we're actually going to go for stability and survivability because, as I said, I don't want to kill Jebediah Kerman. I'm trying really hard not to kill any Kerbals in this game. They make it taxing sometimes. So we are going to get this one done, and we're also going to get our stability done. And that pretty much wipes out all the science that we just did. Again, I'm just realizing that my face is over the parts that I was just trying to explain here. So we have these parts that are going to show up on the side over here. Not a big deal. Just you'll see them as you're kind of clicking through these icons. But we wanted these particular parts so that we can have a little more science, actually a lot more science, and we can also get ourselves a little more stable and actually have different ways of getting ourselves up into the atmosphere, sort of thing. So let's get out of here. I'm going to shift my face back down again. There's never a good spot when you're streaming or doing a video for your face to be on the side of these screens. This is always something that gets in the way. Alright, so let's go back. Well, I clicked on the wrong thing. I went a little too fast. We don't want to go back into here just yet. We actually want to go back over to mission control, because now we've completed those 2 missions. We have space freed up to do 2 more missions. And so we want to actually come back into here. Now, you're going to see right off the bat, hey, you've got a lot more than just those other 2 missions. What the heck do I do? Well, some of these are great missions that you can just do for like a little quick fix for some cash. The other ones are just obnoxious. To not put too fine a point on it, they're just obnoxious. For example, we haven't even gotten above 10,000 meters, and they want to do a crew report at 18,000 meters over this one particular area of Kerbal, which is fine. We could probably figure out how to get there, but it's just a lot more work than it's actually worth doing. And it really, this sort of mission requires a plane of some sort to really do. So we don't have any of those built yet. We're not going to build them in this video, at least. We're just going to kind of leave it as this. So we're just going to click through, see if there's anything other than the original 2 missions, Escape the Atmosphere and Orbit Kerbal, that I want to do in conjunction with one of them, which would be just a quick, easy way to do. Nothing I see here, at least. Hauling the parachute up into the atmosphere up to, I think, deploying it at this altitude, this speed, we certainly could do. But again, don't really need to. The hammer we probably will do, but again, it's launching these. It's going to be firing it at this altitude and this speed, so it kind of doesn't make sense. And I don't know if we're going to test the decouplers at this altitude or speed. So we're just going to stay with our Escape the Atmosphere mission and Orbit Kerbal mission. Alright, so we're going to take those 2 missions, and we are going to get into our vehicle assembly building again. And we're going to build a brand new ship. Now, you could just take this off and expand on it, but it's just simple, just to start a new ship, keep your old saves of ships just in case. We're still going to do our parachute. There you go. Still going to do our parachute. Still going to do 3 of these mystery goos. Actually, I'm going to do 3 these press mat barometers right underneath it as well, and 3 temperature gauges. The only reason I'm putting 3 of these on here versus anything else is that Jeb can't get out of the ship right now to reset these sort of things or collect the data while he's in flight. So that's the only reason why I have multiple on. When you get to later, you only need like 1 mystery goo or maybe 2, and then certainly 1 of only these things. yeah, not a crazy thing. So that's that. I don't know if we're going to actually get into the atmosphere or not, or get out of the atmosphere or not. So we are going to put a heat shield on just in case. It could go our way that we get out of the atmosphere, get into an orbit, and we're going to need that to come back down. But I don't know. That being said, we're also going to need a decoupler right underneath that. So we're just going to slap that on the bottom there. All right. And from here, we have some work to do. So we have these sorts of new fuel tanks that we can actually put on. These are going to be liquid fuel and oxidizer, and they're actually going to sit right like that. Now, one of the things you can do if you have a part that you need to copy a lot of, what you can do is hit Alt on your keyboard and click left click on a item, and then copy it, and then put it down again. And you can do that with multiple things that are attached together, 2, 3, 4 at a time, just like this. All right. Now, is this going to get us out of the atmosphere? Well, let's find out. It takes roughly 22. You need to be going at 2,200 meters per second, I should say, going around the Kerbal to be in the atmosphere. This right now, as is, absolutely not going to get us. Not going to get us in orbit, I should say. It might get us out of the atmosphere, but probably not. Now, there's ways we can get around this. We can add things like these radial couplers that we just got. We can add, say, if we added 3 of these hammer boosters, like this, and attach these right to those decouplers we just put on. Make sure they are on the decouplers. We'll actually take this down to here, and now we have 1400 here, and another 12 after we've decoupled these off. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to actually take this engine at a little lower speed, lower thrust, so we're not burning through as much of our fuel, and then these will actually end up jettisoning off once we're most of the way through our burn. The one thing we're going to want to do is we want to make sure these are low on our ship, because right now what we don't have is any sort of Sepratron thrusters, whatever, to push these away from our craft. So the lower they are, the less likely we are going to end up having them come back and hit our craft. Now we're already at a problem. We're already way over our weight count, and we're very soon going to be over our part count as well. That's what one of these this gear is down here telling us. How big our craft is, how heavy it is. So right now we're going to be over our weight count for the launch pad. So we'd have to upgrade our launch pad first, and we're going to be over our part count very, very quickly. So let's save this craft right now. We're going to call this the Aether 1. We're going to save it, and we're going to leave the VAB. What we're going to try and do is see first if we can actually upgrade both buildings and still have enough for that craft. So to upgrade your buildings, you just right-click on an area, and then you click the upgrade button there. I do not have enough. I don't have enough to even... I have enough to upgrade the launch pad, so I can make just this ship as it is fly. But I don't have enough to upgrade it, upgrade both at the same time, or even just this one VAB building. But we can upgrade this launch pad, and we probably should. That gives us a little bit more weight to work with. We can now build things up to 140 tons. At the next upgrade, it doesn't matter what weight you have, the launch pad will support it. Otherwise, if you built a craft that was too heavy, it won't launch it, but it will basically destroy the launch pad right away. Alright, So at least we fixed one of the problems. We can't fix the VAB. We don't have enough money yet. This is a shame, unfortunately. Here we go. Let's see. We wanted this down here. All right. Now, we have options. We can either add nose cones to these, which are going to get us over our part count, but we can add 2 more parts. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that down. We'll add the 2 more right here, like so. Now it changes our values down here. We have 13 and 16. This might be enough to get us up to orbit. I don't know. We honestly won't know until we test it. This is only costing us 15,000 to do, and our missions are going to get us a heck of a lot more just getting to orbit and getting out of the atmosphere, getting to orbit. Will this work? I don't know. It looks like the math would work it out. I might need a little more. Typically speaking, once I have my buildings upgraded, it becomes a lot easier to over-design your crafts, which I tend to do. I tend to have way more fuel than I actually need. I do things wildly inefficiently, but they work. And if it works, you know, the Kerbal way is, if it doesn't work, add more boosters. We can't really add more boosters. We're at our part limit at the moment. But we certainly are doing a good job. We could, well, we don't have the thumper boosters, but if we could, we'd be able to add a little bit bigger boosters out of the bottom here. But I digress. I don't believe there's anything else that we want to add or need to add. Fins. We didn't add any fins. We do at least have a swivel engine on the bottom, which will give us some stability. Probably what's going to happen is we're going to shoot this more or less straight up until these boosters actually run out of fuel, dump them, and then start spinning. Not spinning. Not going to spin. Try to, at least. And then start tilting ourselves over slightly with that swivel engine on the bottom. So, this should work. We'll see. We'll see how it works. We should be good to go. We're going to lose all this stuff below here. There are certainly ways to make this craft so that it comes back complete, but we're not planning on doing that. We're not saving ourselves money by doing that in this game. Alright, so let's save this, and we'll launch. Alright, now as this is getting ready here, we're going to throttle up 100% to start off with. Probably actually going to back it down maybe to half throttle, I think, actually. That just tells us that we're not going to burn as much of the liquid fuel. We're going to let the boosters do most of the work getting us up in the atmosphere. I was talking about the delta V and other stuff. The thrust to weight ratio is the other thing. Right now, you at least you need to have a thrust to weight ratio of 1 or better to get yourself up, get yourself moving in a positive direction. We have a thrust to weight ratio of 4 with this, and once we detach these side boosters, we'll actually have a 2.4, which is great thrust to weight ratio, which is why I need to actually make sure I lower my throttle with this swivel engine here first. That way these boosters do most of the work, getting myself up out of this lower atmosphere and get myself going. By the way, if you want to keep any of these values up here, so like when you scroll off of it, it goes away, just left click on it and it'll stay there. It's nice to have if you're trying to keep an eye on what your readouts are for everything. Okay, so Jeb's in the pilot seat. God help us. and we are going to launch this thing. So we already did a few things. We did do a mystery goo and a crew report from the last time, but we didn't do our press map barometer. So we're going to do one of these, log our pressure data, and we're going to log a temperature data. That way we got those from here. Now Jeb's going to get out of the ship like last time, and he's going to collect that data. Because these are reusable experiments, not like the mystery goo, they're just basically reset. He's got that data, and we don't have to worry about resetting anything like that. You have to have a scientist to reset stuff like the mystery goo, and they have to be leveled up to a certain point. All right, so throttle's still down there. This should work. I'm going to try to explain, excuse me, orbital mechanics while we're doing our flight, at least a little bit, on how do you do your ascent. We'll see how well that works as I'm trying to focus on what I actually should be doing. Biggest thing is don't look at the ship, look at the nav ball. Keep your eyes on that. The ship can tend to distract you from what you're trying to do. Alright, let's launch this sucker. 3, 2, 1, go. There we go. We are moving. Really, really moving. So we're even going to back that fuel down just even a little bit more. I said we're just going to let this punch our way through the bottom part of the atmosphere. We'll hit that decoupler. We'll make sure we throttle ourselves up. I'm not even barely going to have that engine on. Three of those really does a good job getting yourself moving in a hurry. So if I was doing a normal mission, I'd want to be around 15,000 or 10,000. I want to be over here towards the 45 mark. Throttle up, launches off. And we are going to still start climbing, but we're going to start tilting ourselves over very, very slightly. You don't want to go outside of that yellow ring that you see. Not too much, at least. Otherwise, you end up start flipping out. And right now we have like nil control. The only control we're getting is from our engine. That's why I'm being careful of throttling it down. Alright, we're getting up out of the atmosphere, so I'm not worried as much about flipping out. So that's why you start seeing me going a little bit more out of that range. We are going still pretty fast. We should be fine. We shouldn't flip out now. We should be fine. So now we're just going to hold right here around 45 mark. And you can see that prograde marker here, this icon here is starting to move over. Our apoapsis is above. We are going to get out of the atmosphere and into space. We're not going to push this much higher. What we're going to have to do, we'll get it to 100. And we're going to cut our engines. There we go. So we're still in the atmosphere at 40,000 meters. We are going to definitely get out of here. We don't want to forget doing our science on the way up. So let's do this now while we get a chance. This is why sometimes it's better to just have your science kind of staged on the side here before you even get going. That way you don't forget about doing it like I just did. So we've done a couple of things here science-wise, get us some more. There we go. All right. So basically what we're waiting to do is we're waiting to get closer, I should say, to this apoapsis marker. What we want to do, if we're going to try for circularization on this, which I don't think we're going to have enough speed necessarily to do that. We might, but it's going to be close. We probably went a little too high. What we need to do is kind of push ourselves and expand that arc out to be a circle around the planet. The biggest thing is I can't leave myself with nothing to get myself back into the atmosphere with. So I need to have at least a little something to work with at the end. But we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. We are in the atmosphere now, or out of the atmosphere now, so we're going to actually throttle ourselves up just a hair. Our engine works a little bit more efficiently in no atmosphere as opposed to as it's pushing through all that heavy, dense air. It's not a lot, but it's at least something. We are going up still. I'm sort of angling myself down. I'm trying to keep myself at the horizon a little bit, just to keep myself going as flat as possible. Now, one thing we want to try and look at, right now we don't have any information telling us how long it will be till we get to our apoapsis marker. Let me move this out of the way again. We don't have anything telling us how long it's going to take for us to get there. We can right-click on our apoapsis and our ship, and it kind of tells us where we're at and stuff. But right now, what we're basically eyeballing is how long, or are we getting closer to this apoapsis marker, or are we getting farther away from it? The best time to burn, really, is up here at the apoapsis marker. There's a certain time before and after that marker, which is the most efficient way to go. But because we have no idea where that mark is, we're just trying to keep that marker basically the same distance away from us as we're kind of close to it at the top. If that makes any sense. If it didn't, I'm sure someone else will explain it better than I just did in the comments or something when I actually post this video. But in any event, you kind of see our arc is kind of like slowly expanding out. We've got, I don't think we got enough to do a full circularization and get ourselves out of here. It would be close, but we'll probably spend what we have and see how close we get. We may get a little bit of a circularization. We probably just won't have enough to get ourselves to orbit. And as I said before, I got to keep an eye on having enough fuel left at the end of this all to get myself back down, because otherwise I'm stranding Jebediah in space. I need to have a little bit of fuel left. So while we do that, we'll keep our fuel gauge over here on the side. Yeah, we're not going to have anywhere near enough. So we're just going to try and get ourselves to land somewhere relatively interesting, other than the water. Doubtful, but that's fine. So we just didn't have enough juice to get ourselves up there. We didn't have enough. We didn't have a very efficient flight. We didn't do a good job of using our fuel the best way possible. Could this have actually gotten to an orbit? Maybe, but just wasn't enough. So we'll probably gonna come back in somewhere around that. We'll just cut the engine there. We have a little bit more fuel, but it's not a big deal. Yeah, why not? We'll use it out. I'm all for at least using what you have. Let's see, we got we're going to get somewhere midway around. We didn't have quite enough fuel, didn't do this efficiently enough to get ourselves out there, but not a big deal. So that got us to 1988. I think we needed another maybe 300, 400 meters of delta V left. So had we done this at a lower altitude, maybe 70,000, where you actually go out of the atmosphere, had we shot for a lower altitude, we actually might have done it, but it's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. But we are in space, so we need to make sure we're doing our experiments, right? So the further you are away from Kerbal, the better science you're getting. So right now, we'll do another crew report. Since we're in space near Kerbal, we're going to get 5 out of that. We are going to come over here, do our press map barometer. Log that. That's getting us 12. Mystery goo. Just going to get us 10. And we can't do an EVA report, but we're all good there. So, we've got our crew report, which we'll take out, put back in once we land. We're out of fuel, so we can actually do our next thing of staging. So there we go. We're not carrying this big honking ship anymore. Now we're just going to spin ourselves around till we're facing this way. So now we're facing retrograde. Retrograde meaning the opposite of the direction we're heading. So we're flying through space, do it on the screen, this direction, and we're just having our tail end kind of, with the tail of the heat shield there, kind of getting us through the atmosphere. Okay, so there's really not anything left to do while we're up here. We've done our science. We can't have him do an EVA report, since he's not able to do EVAs yet. We have gotten our false milestones, missions done. We have missed the orbit, but we'll get that on the next shot with probably an updated version of this craft. Alright, so let's just talk about time warping. So what we can do is you can time warp at different speeds as you're going around the planet or going around the solar system. Once you get to a certain altitude, it won't let you go any faster. So you can hit period button. We'll see we'll start speeding up times 50 below 100 or so. And it's actually going to cut us out as soon as we start hitting the atmosphere there, so at 70. So we're actually back in the atmosphere. I'm going to essentially point ourselves back. We're going to look and take a little bit more science. We need to do temperature and our press map barometer at this higher altitude. We could do mystery goo in the upper atmosphere as well. Let's see what it's going to get us. 9. So we'll do that one. We can always reset that if we haven't taken the data out first, but that's fine. So now we're coming in 61,000 meters. We can speed up the time a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to hit the period button again. Now we're going 2 times as fast, 3 times, 4 times as fast. The thing with this is that it's physics warp, so everything is enhanced. I don't have Jebediah doing anything other than holding ourselves still. I actually probably could turn SAS off, and the ship is actually going to hold itself on that retrograde marker because it's aerodynamically stable. The shield wants to hold in that position. So it's going to wobble a little bit here and there, but for the most part we're good to go. Our heat shield is this ablator up here. You see it's getting eaten away at 0.2, 0.21s, heating up more and more. Not a big deal. This is way more heat shield than you actually need. The heat shields in the Kerbal Space Program are pretty ridiculous in terms of their power. I'm not saying change them. Please do not change them. We love having heavy heat shields. You can always modify how much ablator is on your heat shield to save on weight or anything else like that. But typically I just let it be what it is and work around it. So we can kind of see ourselves coming in. I don't know where we're going to land. We might land, I can't tell if that's land here or if that's going to be still water. Either way will be fine. You see right now our parachute is red. So if we try to launch that right now, we'd actually rip the chute off. We'd have no way, well, yeah, we'd have no way of saving Jebediah because he can't EVA while he's in flight. If he could at least EVA and just jump out the ship, he has his own parachute that he could then use upon re-entry. So now we're down below 20. We're not heating up as much in the atmosphere, slowing ourselves down nicely. That was a nice little shot of the Mun right there. We'll do our best to get there soon. Gotta get ourselves to orbit first. Alright, now we can time warp ourselves a little bit. Down to 9,000. It's safe for us to deploy our chute, so let's do it now, just so we don't forget about it. You can see over here part of the debris that we had detached from earlier. That is also coming down over here, about 22 kilometers away. That will actually impact on the planet and explode. Wonderful explosions in Kerbal Space Program, if you haven't already figured that out. It looks like that's actually going to land in the that landed inland, where we're going to land in water. It's perfectly fine. You know, you want to get to as many biomes as possible, different biomes as possible, to get more science. So since we haven't been to the water yet, not a big deal. If we had already been there, we're not getting the most out of our science for each trip, but it's not a big deal. So there we go. Our chute's deployed, 300 before the surface, and we're slowing ourselves down. So we'll again physics warp ourselves a little bit, just till we're down to this last, 50 meters or so from the sea level, and we'll cut it off there back to regular time, just so we're not sitting down through things and waiting more than anything. There we go. We'll turn SAS back on so that it stays upright when we get into the water. There we go. We've landed. Jebediah, awesome job. Great job, sir. Let's take the data, store it. We'll do EVA report. We also want him to grab temperature and that press mat barometer before he gets back in, so that those are free for us to do here in the water and get just that little bit more science. You really want to try and get whatever you can whenever you can and get the most of it. You kind of see as you look at the data here. You could transmit if we had a satellite, but we're not getting the maximum amount of science out of it as if we brought it back ourselves. That's good. So Jeb's great. He's 2 for 2 without crashing or flipping or anything like that. So we'll recover that vessel. You're going to see again that we don't get as much of the craft back. We lost parts along the way from what we actually recovered. So we only really get into what's the science stuff that's the most valuable stuff on the craft. But we're going to get back a little bit less. But look at that. 97 science just for that short little trip up into the suborbital flight. So we got that. We got 5,000 from recovered parts. Again, we're farther away from the KSC, so we only got 61% of it. But we have 229,000 funds now. And Jeb didn't get any experience for that. No experience for a suborbital flight. Maybe once he gets to orbit, he'll get something. But till then, Jeb is still at his lowly rank of 0. Alright, so that's a simple suborbital flight. Again, it wasn't the most efficient thing to do, but we're kind of handicapped by our part count, which we could, in theory, upgrade now, but we don't really have enough. We wouldn't have enough in funds to get ourselves another ship to go actual orbital at this point. But in the meantime, let's take a look and see what we can do with our science. So one of the things that we should be able to do to help with that part count is actually go to this general rocketry and get this part. This is the FTL-2 T200 tank. And this tank is basically double this other small tank that we have here that we're currently using. So we can actually shift out all of our tanks for this and kind of cut those parts in half. Just lets us get a few more things on the ship, maybe a few more fuel tanks, just to get ourselves up into orbit a little bit better, a little easier. So that's going to be our next step. Just grabbing that. It also gives us a much, much bigger booster. We really don't need a bigger booster for what we're doing. Really, really, really don't need it. The other thing that we can do is try and get this Terrier engine here. Now, what we're probably going to do, we actually might do it. It might be the best way to go about it. Is we're going to, we're going to do that. Reaction wheels, batteries. Yeah, I'd say that's the best way to go. We're going to get that general rocketry and the advanced rocketry for 45 since we can. And we're going to get that spark engine that's over here. Or not the spark engine, the Terrier engine, I should say. And that one will actually get us a lot more efficient in space. It's super efficient space. 60 kilonewtons of thrust in a vacuum versus 14 in there. It sounds like that's not a lot. You know, what about this other engine you just have here, this Reliant? Heck, that's a lot more fuel efficient in space. The thing is that, or it's not fuel efficient, it's a lot more powerful in space. The problem is that Terrier engine just kind of sips at that fuel a little bit more, so it's much, much more fuel efficient as it goes along there. So we're going to grab those two, and we still have enough, I think. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Oh, I thought we did. But those right there, that should be more than enough to get ourselves circularized and heck, almost doing a moonshot in the next run. It all depends on how we design our craft. So we'll design this. We'll just kind of re-update the Aether craft. This is the one time I'm going to break my rule of saving your old craft and doing another one. This time we're just going to strip the stuff off of our old craft that we just built. It works fine. And we're going to just kind of change out our body on this ship. So we're going to take these boosters off. I'm just going to leave them off the side. We've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of those. So we're going to need 5 of our new fuel tanks. And actually not even that. We're going to use our FLT 400, which is double this. So this is 4 tanks right here. That's 8 of our little tanks, and then this is 10. We're actually going to do it this way. So this, again, as we've slap it back together, this right here is the same exact craft that we just had. Only thing that we changed was our part count. Remember last time we were at 30 parts maximum? Well now, if I move my face out of the way, we actually go back over here. We actually look down at our part count now. We're at 23 parts, as opposed to 30 maximum. We actually gained it and made it so that we had 7 more parts that we can put onto the ship. So we can add a whole nother round of fuel tanks. We could have 7 more of those single fuel tanks, or even more of these larger tanks now. It just makes it that much more efficient. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to take this down here, and we're going to take this little Terrier engine. We're going to put it right to the bottom of here. We're going to take one more decoupler, set it there, and we're going to add just to keep it simple. Add this. So now, what have we done? We've got our 3 boosters going off here. We've got those coupling, and this is not firing until we have some staging issues here. Let's see. Trying to fix the staging. There we go. That should be better. So, this is going to run, our boosters here are all going to run till they're out. Then they're going to separate off. And then this main engine down here will run the rest of the fuel. Most of our actual circulation will be part of that. But then that last little bit up here, this 327 that it says, again, my face is in the way. I apologize. This 327 is actually going to be a hell of a lot more. Because what we can do right here is we go to our delta V. This shows us what we're doing at altitude, so at sea level right now, basically. And then if we flip it over to here to vacuum, it's going to put us at 132, 1300 delta V right there. So we're just going to take this and put this back to altitude so we see what it is. So we can get rid of that. That's kind of how you can kind of figure out, is it really going to work or not? You know, this will all be in the atmosphere, but this is going to be up in the upper atmosphere. You know, how does that kind of sort of work thing? You can also slide this down, so it's going to be there. It's not changing anything. Just makes it so that once this this stage is done down here, it separates and this fires right away. So we're not going to lose anything. So this should definitely get us to space. And we only added what? This is the same baseline piece here. We added one more fuel tank, one more engine, and we just made it a little bit more efficient. Now, I could add some wings to this to make it a little bit more stable in flight and not have to worry about flipping as much. That might spin a bit. There you go. Okay, so that's just making it a little bit more aerodynamic. Should be fine. Nothing else we really want to add to this. I don't have any new space parts, nothing like that. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're really good. Okay. Alright, so we're going to save this, since we have changed the design. We don't want to save it as the same craft. we'll save this as Aether 2. Alright. This should definitely get us, this should be an orbital craft. Aether 1 was a suborbital craft. This is marginally changed as a ship, and it should get up there no problem. We're still at 29 parts. We still could add one more thing to this if we really needed to. We wanted to add an antenna or something like that. We don't have any batteries or solar panels or anything like that. Really, the next thing that we need to do is to get this, like this ship could almost get ourselves, probably could get ourselves to the Mun or Mimnus. The problem that we're going to run into is battery. But we'll see. We'll save that craft and let's launch it. Let's get it out of here. I don't think there was anything. Well, let's double check. We'll double check our mission control, see if there's anything that we want to get before we leave for a new mission, things like that. Yeah, we'll grab this one. This is a simple test the swivel engine at the launch site by going through staging process. Absolutely, we're going to get this done, no problem. Right. See, we saved ourselves a little bit of money by getting that done. All right, let's get back over to the VAB. We'll launch the Aether 2, and we'll get ourselves into orbit. And I feel like this mission, this stream or recording has gone on quite long at this point. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it after this this mission. We'll upload it to YouTube, and the next one that we're going to do, we'll basically take this craft or a version of it, and we're going to make our first craft to get to the Mun. So that should be good. Let's take the Aether 2 out for a spin. See how she works. All right, I'm excited. I'm excited. Let's turn our SAS on. Throttle ourselves up a little bit, not a lot. Don't need a lot. Probably don't even need that much. Just check what our delta V is at. We're at 3.6. Yeah, not worried. All right. I should say our thrust weight ratio, not our delta V. Excuse me. All right. Let's move this down so we're not really blocking anything important. All right. Ready to go, Jed? All right. 3, 2, 1, and launch. There we go. Cutting through the atmosphere. Jed is having a great time there. So I'm not going to explain the mechanics again. It's kind of redundant sort of thing. You know, again, we're letting these run till we're basically out of fuel on them. There we go. Safely away. Had to throttle ourselves up a little bit quicker there. Ooh. It's dancing around on me a little bit, actually. I gotta add a little more thrust just for that control. There we go. Not worried so much about tipping over at this point. Above 16, 17,000. I'm just going to push ourselves over like that. There we go. So now let's take a look out on our map view. Don't need to be looking at the ship. Honestly, the map view you're going to be in more often than not. So there we go, we're pushing ourselves out on that 45-degree mark. It's about the best angle to go off of. And we just want to get ourselves, maybe we'll go for 85,000 meters this time around. Alright, we're out of the atmosphere. For our apoapsis, let's get about 85. Good. Alright, we still have about 500 meters per second. We're going to actually save that until we're fully out of the atmosphere. The best use of that fuel. And then we'll detach that off. We'll start burning the rest of our little engine, little fuel tank here. And that should be more than enough to get ourselves circularized. With what we have left, we should be able to get circularized. Now the trick is with doing these launches early in the game, you don't have any of the maneuver nodes that you can make. It's all eyeballing it and getting a sense for when do I need to burn, when's the best time to burn, all that sort of stuff. So we want to lay ourselves relatively flat to the horizon, roughly speaking. Okay. Start throttling it up a little bit. And keep an eye on that fuel. We're actually going to do it on a stage view, so we know how much we have left for this one stage. That way we'll switch back to our other screen. Make sure we hit the next stage. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We are going to do it. Absolutely. We got way more than... So I see right there, I'm just trying to keep these markers roughly the same distance apart, just by keeping on that prograde marker. Try not to let them get too far apart or too close together. I'm just keeping an eye on that with my fuel, or sorry, not with my fuel, with my throttle. So right now I'm actually going a little away from it. Angle myself down, flatter. There we go. We're still pushing this up. This is going to go higher and higher. But as long as we're staying ourselves above 70K, we're going to be fine. Let's slow ourselves down a little bit. We're getting very close. See, that's almost popped through the other side of the planet. There it is. There's that periapsis marker. So apoapsis is your height, the highest point in your arch, and that periapsis marker is the lowest point. I'm just trying to roughly even that out. As soon as this periapsis marker gets above 70,000, we have hit an orbit. We've succeeded in getting that orbit done. I said I'm barely using any fuel right now to get myself into this orbit. I mean, we'll see what I have at the end of this all, but this craft in and of itself, this is meant for just getting to an orbit. This is not meant to get anywhere beyond low Kerbal orbit, which is fine. It's all it's designed to do. Kind of stop ourselves. And there we are. We're in an orbit. I'd like it to be a little more circular, which we'll probably do once we get to the apoapsis. But we've done it. We've got it. We've gotten our contract completed, our world first milestone of getting to orbit. Jeb is happy as a clam. Alright. So, while we're here, real quick, let's take a look. We have another 515 meters of delta V left in this craft to get ourselves back down to Kerbal. So, let's do some mystery goo. Get ourselves a little bit of science. Do a crew report. We've already done. So, most of this science here is not going to help us a whole lot. We should have done, maybe as we were going up into the atmosphere, a little bit more. But, truthfully, that's all we really needed to do. We really didn't need all the extra science on this trip. Just weren't sure where we were going to end up or where we were going to land or anything like that. We'll probably do some more science coming back down through the atmosphere. But for the most part, hey, successful mission. We have Jebediah Kerbal in orbit around Kerbal. Let's get rid of our messages here real quick. And that's good. So that's it for that. We can actually leave him up there in orbit right now. We'll hit the escape key and go back to the Space Center. So he's up there. He's fine. He's got all the snacks that he needs to stay happy and be well fed up there in space. The only thing we have to keep an eye on for him is his battery. Without the battery, we have no way of controlling the ship aside from engine gimbal. So the only thing we can do is, if for whatever reason we're going the wrong way, we have to fire the engine to spin ourselves around and use the engine that we have to kind of get back into the atmosphere. But I digress. Anywho, we are looking great. We have 321,702 Kerbal bucks. We have a little bit more prestige we started off with. We got some more science right off the bat just from what we have completed. So we're looking great there too. We can actually peek into mission control. We have a little mission here to explore Kerbal. So return to orbit from Kerbal, which we have him up there. We just need to accept that mission, and that's good to go. If we had any of these decouplers or if we had this parachute one, maybe, for example, we could probably accept this mission and see if we can get that on the way back in. But I digress. We'll probably do that for the next one. Let's finish up. We got to finish it out. We have to finish it out. That's true. This is our tracking station. We haven't been here yet, so this is how we kind of get back to our ships once we come back from the command ship there. So it just gives us a good look at what's going on in the solar system. Our Kerbal is there with our many different launch pads. Once you have them enabled and whatnot. The Mun is over here, and our other celestial body around is Mimnus, which you'll come to know and love. It's a great place to go get science really almost in one shot. You really don't need to do a whole lot to get to Midness. It's not that much harder to get to Midness than it is to get to Mun. It's actually a lot easier to land on Midness than the Mun. A lot of people have difficulty with the Mun just because it has a little bit heavier gravity. Not heavier than Kerbin's, but just then Midness. Midness is super easy to land on. Anybody can land on Midness. You could actually almost land on Midness with jetpacks, and I'm sure people have done it. But in any event, we are going to get ourselves back to Aether 2. We'll click on it over here on the left side. We'll click on Fly. Please don't terminate your Kerbals. Just click on Fly. All right. Out of drink now. So, our intrepid Jebediah Kerman is currently well above Kerbin. He is at 90,000 meters. So, we have two options right now. We can try to come down to some place where we've never been before, which is probably our best bet. We could try to land at the Kerbal Space Center or one of our other airfield sites. We're not going to do it for one of two reasons. One being that to launch ourselves or to land ourselves back at Kerbal Space Center, it takes a little bit of finagling with. That's just something I want to cover in like first video sort of thing. The basics behind it is when you want to be basically entering the atmosphere around this peninsula, and then your the end of your arc will be somewhere just shy of this other peninsula here, maybe in the middle of this water. And it takes a little bit of fine tuning, knowing what how heavy your craft is, aerodynamics of it, where it will actually come down in the water or right back at the Kerbal Space Command. Re-entry to land back at Kerbal Space Center is not really a necessary thing to do. It just saves you a little bit of money, really marginal money, as you're coming back in. Even if I landed over here in the desert, I'm this far away from the desert site, so I would only lose about that much being over here. Which I think is where we're going to aim for, somewhere over here in this desert. It's a different biome, different place to kind of land in. So what we're going to do is we're going to time warp ourselves till we are at a point where I think we're going to come down in that desert. Our periapsis is here with only at 82. You have to keep that in mind. We're not at that higher 90 mark over here. Okay. Probably about here. About here. That sounds good. That should be good. So now we're going to take ourselves and kind of point ourselves retrograde. Just like this. And we're going to fire these engines. Now, I'm going to fire full bore for a brief second. And watch that periapsis marker. Fall down, fall down, fall down. And we're back into the planet. That's good. That should land me somewhere along this landmass here. So now I don't need this fuel tank anymore. So what do I do with it? Well, there's two things you can do. One, you could actually leave it on there and try to save it as much as possible. The thing with fuel tanks are very highly combustible, but engines are actually really good at withstanding re-entry. So you can actually have this engine just on the bottom of here act like a heat shield, and you could save this whole craft. For the sake of demonstration, we're just going to ditch it like we normally would. We're going to do one thing, though. We're going to actually face radial out from the planet, like this, and we're going to just ditch it down there. That way we are aerodynamically stable. Good to go there. And that part is going to come down at a different angle from where we are. It's at a little bit lower altitude than where we're at. So, there we go. We're good to go there. Let's get ourselves set up with mystery goos. I think we did one of them already. We did. So, let's get a temperature gauge set up. Set that up over here. Same with our press barometer. Set that over here. And this mystery goo is also set up over here. We already did our crew report, so we don't want to do that again. We're also going to set this one up over here. Probably going to miss it behind my face on the screen with the other ones on there, but you'll get the point. Set this here. And there we go. Yeah. You're kind of missing it behind my face a little bit. Just sneak that down a little bit. There we go. Alright. So, just trying to keep ourselves relatively retrograde. He can only hold stability assist in whatever direction he's currently holding. That's where he's going to try to keep the ship pointed. As he levels up, hopefully at the end of this mission here, he'll actually be able to hold prograde and retrograde, which will make entering the atmosphere a lot easier coming back in. Shouldn't be a big deal. Alright. So, we're going to try and run these science data at different altitudes. Temperature, pressure, and mystery goo. One at the upper part of the atmosphere, just basically when we come back in. The other one is going to be kind of that midway down through middle atmosphere area. Just trying to get things as we kind of come down through the atmosphere a little easier. Just try not to waste the science more than anything, honestly. Little trick as we come back in. If you hit Control, that'll actually change the color down here to these blue icons as opposed to the orange ones, which just gives you a little bit more finer control of your craft. It works really great when you're doing docking material and stuff like that, which maybe we'll cover in the next video if we start to do a Apollo style mission or something like that. But in any event, we're taking SAS off. The ship is aerodynamically stable, so as soon as we really start catching that atmosphere, it'll be, nudge ourselves a little bit. There you go. We should be good. Now, let's not forget, log our temperature. We've already done it from this part. Did our pressure scan, mystery goo. Alright, so they've all been done from the upper atmosphere. We're only getting half a thing of science. We'll see if we can save that for when we're down on the ground then. We're just waiting until we get to a different part of the atmosphere as we kind of come down and through. We can speed it up a little bit. I'm not worried about overheating because we have the good heat shield there. We have a heat shield there, right? Yeah. Always check, people. Always check. You really don't start heating up until you get around 50 kilometers. And that's when you'll start seeing the heating up effects, like right there, popping up. Now we should be, let's see if we're still in the upper atmosphere. Let's take a look where we're coming down. I really hope we do land in the desert. Let's see. I could have made it a little shorter, I guess. We should. I hope we do. Oh, see, we're getting some heating up going on there. We started speeding it up too much. So, those are little heat indicators there. Once they go all the way to the right, fully red, that's when you start having things explode on your ship. Just really not what you want going. You can also spin your craft and just kind of get things out of the heat for at least a little bit. Yeah, we should be coming down over here somewhere-ish. Still in the upper atmosphere. So we're just gently spinning the ship so that we don't have one part of the mystery goos or our experiments hitting that hitting that hottest part for too long. Alright, we should be coming down. Probably once we hit this lighter blue line here, we'll be in that lower-ish part of the atmosphere. We'll maybe get some more science there. Still upper atmosphere. Definitely coming down in the sand here somewhere, in this desert. There we go. While flying over Kerbalnauts desert, temperature, pressure, and mystery goo. While flying at Kerbal. That's fine. We'll get the on-ground stuff with the last bit of our science. I was worried a little bit we would kind of screw up our science a bit and not get everything we want. So, all good things. Now, again, I'm going to actually increase the altitude about 1,500. I can always speed warp things. We'll launch that parachute now, just so we're safe. We shouldn't be more than... We should have plenty of time. The other thing is the chutes this does open at 1,000 meters above the surface, but it still always worries me. And if you don't have enough parachutes, like if you have a really heavy ship and just this one parachute, it's not going to slow you down in time. It's not going to slow you down enough anyways, but it's not going to slow you down enough in time to be anything meaningful impact-wise. So, right now, we're waiting till we're 1,500 meters above the surface of the desert, and that's when the chute should fully deploy. Right there. And you heard that explosion, wherever it was, is the rocket and the engine that we dumped before. And there we go. We are gently floating down to the surface of Kerbal from a beautiful, beautiful desert there. Beautiful white desert. Just near the shoreline. So, great job, Jebediah Kerman. You've gone 3 for 3 on us today without doing anything funky. He does tend to like to keep us on our toes. I don't know how easy it is for you guys to tell. It's kind of hard to see where the ground is. We're getting closer to it. I am speed warping, physics warping. I want to make sure we keep an eye on our shadow there, actually. It's probably the best way to go about it. As we get closer and closer and closer, we don't need that there. Put our SAS on, I guess. But here we go. Beautiful. Coming in for a nice soft landing on the desert stand. Gorgeous. Awesome. So now that that's done, let's log our pressure data from the deserts, log our temperature data from the deserts, and do a Mr. Goose since we haven't done one here at the desert. Jeb's going to get out, do an EVA report, and he's going to also take all the experiments, board it again, and he's going to do one more crew report for that 1.5 from the deserts. And there we go. Jeb's all good to go. We'll recover our vessel. We'll see what we get. Awesome. We're at 100 science. So we got 40.8 science from that one mission there. And we got ourselves up out of the atmosphere and into an orbit. Brought ourselves back down. We got one more mission completed for that. We got 69.3 value back. So we were roughly the same distance away from that of the launch site than we were from the KSP. So didn't save us a whole lot going to the desert, but it's fine. We still have a lot more funds than we did when we left. And Jeb Kerman has finally got enough experience to get himself to level 1 pilot. So that's awesome. Great job, Jeb. We're very proud of you. We'll just clear our contract messages here. We hauled the parachute into flight above Kerbal, so we got that one. We got a safe return from orbit, and we also got an exploring Kerbal. So we did a good job. We did a really good job there. I think that's it for today. That's just getting from the very first craft you're going to make, getting it off the launch pad, how to do science really efficiently, and just some basic things about a Kerbal Space Program. If you like the video, we can do some more. I have no problem making videos. I'm currently supposed to be studying for boards and other stuff like that, so I've got to get back to that. But I'm going to try and make some more videos. You can always catch me when I'm doing live streams of Kerbal Space Program. It's Kerbal on Twitch. Is where I do most of my live streaming. We'll do some videos and other tutorials there, and we'll try and make this actually a series of intro videos on how to go about doing things in KSP. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you had a great time, and we'll check you out next time when we go to the Mun. All right. Stay safe, fly safe.